The RPA Today Show, hosted by Rob Howes and Wilton Rogers. The show that brings you the latest insights on RPA, robotic process automation, and how it's impacting every industry, as well as interviews with companies that are currently winning big with this technology. You'll also hear from other industry leaders and experts who will be sharing some of their success secrets to help you become more productive and to grow your business. The show is brought to you by Simply Automate, where we help you get more done in less time and more ease for your mind with strategic business automation. Learn more at www.simplyautomateinc.com. And please follow us on LinkedIn. If anything in this show resonates with you, please let us know by leaving a review. The RPA Today Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know. Greetings, everybody. Welcome episode of the RPA Show. Show where you just might learn something you didn't know. I'm your host, Rob Howes. My co-host, Wilton Rogers, the automation guy, all the way on the other side of the world, but in the same room. Don't you just love technology, man? Don't you just love it?
Love it. We have some story to share about me and you here later on, but yeah, I love that's what technology does.
Technology gives us the ability to do things better if we choose. And so we have a great show today. You know, we are always having, wonderful individuals come on with their expertise and their insights. And if you can take action with some of these insights, you never know. You could actually may do better business, may have a better outcome. Who knows? But I know our guest today has something special. He's actually one of the more unique guests that we've had on the show so far. I'm going to say that. A degree in black belt in karate, first degree in jiu-jitsu, including having his own karate studio. Steve contributes much of his success to a strong work ethic, a can-do, never-quit attitude, discipline, integrity, and fearlessness that he cultivated in the martial arts. Now, that's big. Martial arts is a fantastic thing of building discipline. If you can do it and teach it, and then somehow implement that into your everyday life, wow. Steve is a master connector with over 35,000 contacts. Okay. He does a LinkedIn Live broadcast every week, which I'm going to be checking this out. I didn't know this. I'm going to be checking this out because it's called the Master Connector Show. Okay. The Master Connector Show, Steve, the Master Connector. Welcome to the RPA Show, my friend.
How you doing, guys? Hey, Rob, Wilton, it's good to be on here. Very, very much honored to be on here with you guys. And you call me unique, so that's a lot to live up to here, you know.
Well, anybody kicking kicks and kicking technology simultaneously, that insight is interesting because it says here you went from marketing and technology, and you have all this background, and you have the martial arts, you have the business, and so it's gonna. And you also have the business automation consulting. I left that out. So also a business automation consultant, which is its own entity.
Absolutely.
Very unique, my friend.
Yeah, it's funny because when people, you know how it is when you network, right? People want to put you in a cute little box when they ask you what you do. You know, he's an attorney, she's a CPA, he's a plumber. And when people ask me what I do and I would tell them, I'd hear like, I don't get it. I'm like, just call me the Master Connector. And that name just seemed to stick. So that's kind of how that all came about. It's a lot easier to just call me the Master Connector.
That's nice, man. Just call me the Master Connector. The real MC, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
Well, look, why don't you share with everyone like why you do what you do? And we're going to get to what you do now, but maybe like who you are and why you do what you do.
Absolutely. Well, probably a unique story for some, maybe not for others, right? But I was born and raised in the Bronx. My dad was an entrepreneur, but dissuaded me from going into that. He had a liquor store and Gary V kind of thing, right? But wound up going into advertising marketing, went to high school for that, college for that. Got out of college, couldn't get a job, started a company, opened a small advertising agency in New York City. And it was pretty wild being a 22-year-old businessman. And then, as you said, parallel to that, started training the martial arts since 83, a couple of black belts, crazy. But the funny thing is, growing up, I was really shy and introverted. I was picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, had a really, really low self-esteem for years. And what happened was over time, because I was able to, the martial arts started to get me out of my shell a little bit, but really it wasn't until a I wound up getting out of advertising into technology, but in that sort of pivot moment, through a good friend, I was introduced to a very successful entrepreneur who became a mentor to me and got me on a path of self-development, books and audios and networking. And so when all that happened, where the industry shifted and there was a whole bunch of economy stuff, I was ready to get out. And that kind of opened the doors. I wound up getting much more into networking, and I started getting outside of myself and started to grow who I was as a person. And today my mission on this planet, it may sound cheesy to some, I don't know, but is to be the light. The mission of our show is to be the light, uplift, inspire, and encourage, and really to help give people hope and understand that if this shy, introverted, low self-esteem kid from the Bronx could become the quote unquote master connector, anyone can today. And it's just a blessing to be able to do that. I love speaking. I love, do speaking engagements. I get on podcasts like this and whatever I can, just to share a message of hope that really anyone can really do anything they put their mind to.
That's awesome. I think that's a strong story right there, because I think that relates. A lot of people relate to that. I relate to it, right? Introverted, the dyslexia, the whole bit, right? Being shy. The background, yours is karate, mine was fitness. Sort of found that link, and how we end up in technology and automation is a different story. But it all started with that, being able to build that confidence from that point, right? And like you said, having those mentors and having those opportunities to be able to show you something bigger than you really even can imagine yourself. And if you that's why I tell people that know me, is like, if I could do it, you can do it. I mean, look, these are the cards I was given, and then I was showing how to use those cards, and here we are today. So those are great stories. I think your story relates to a lot more people than you think. Oh
yeah, it's fantastic, man. I think we're like 3 peas in a pod here, because I'm a personal trainer as well. In fact, past working with kids in fitness for over a decade, and then somehow dipped myself into technology as well. And so, but the discipline from the personal development, which what you were speaking about, that's what really was the catalyst for me. I mean, everything else is activity, but the personal development. Tell me this, Steve. What would be your definition of the master of a master connector?
That's a great question. So I appreciate you asking that, because people like, what the heck is a master connector, right? And I did a post recently. Hopefully, if anyone's listening to this, go find me on LinkedIn. I put out good content. I believe it's good content every day. I'm putting out something, and one of the posts was, "What the heck is a master connector?" Because I think people were curious. But number one, certainly the obvious, right? Somebody who has a big connections list, right? I think I'm at 18,000 contacts on my phone and 20,000 LinkedIn connections. So, that large connection list, sure. But a big part of it is, and the reason I didn't want to be called the master networker, because I think there's a negative connotation with networking. I think people look at networking like almost like prostitution or, solicitation, right? There's a very salesy kind of feel for that. So connector, right? And so being someone who really knows how to connect authentically with people. I love leading with my weaknesses, showing my vulnerabilities. Because I believe it breaks barriers down. And people, when they connect with you, they really connect. So there's a connection in that respect as well. I also I love connecting the dots. I love, I have a big network. It's not something that I boast about because it's like this badge of honor. No, it's because I have this resource that I could bless other people with. And I can, say, if you tell me who in my network you want me to connect you with, again, as long as I've met you and I know you're a decent person and I like you, I'll refer you. I'll make an introduction. So someone who connects dots as well.
That's great.
And there's a few others, but those are the 3 key things. It's connection is really more than connection. And here's the funny part, right? To tie into the business automation. Okay. So the story, how it went in after advertising, got into copier sales, and on the evolutionary scale below the chimpanzee and the orangutan is the copier salesman. So I figured if I could do that, I could do anything. And I did really well at it. But eventually, through a guy I work with in the advertising industry, he actually moved on and we stayed connected. And 5.5 years ago, he reached out to me. And long story short, after a bunch of conversations, I was brought on as a business automation consultant with a company called Quadient. We help companies streamline and automate how they communicate and connect with their clients, leveraging artificial intelligence with hardware and software. And the funny thing is that that was a result of a rebranding. The company name was originally Neopost. Some people may know the name Neopost, Pitney Bowes, kind of the two mail manufacturing companies. As mail is declining, the Neopost was looking to evolve and transform and became now the rebranding of Quadient. And when that rebranding was announced, guess what the slogan was? They didn't check with me on this, but I feel like they may have done it because it was because connections matter. That was the slogan for Quadient. So I'm like, this is perfect. It all lines up. So even in my day profession, master connector makes sense too.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And, I think when you can relate to people and you can actually make it seem like everything's not perfect, they can understand you better. Like you were saying, you're very authentic, right? So being upfront, being vulnerable, showing your weaknesses, being able to do that, like, okay, well, this guy's human. From where he's at right now, he's done well for himself, but I could feel him and I can understand his position as well. So that's important. And that probably explains a lot why you have so many connections, and keep them. That's the thing about it. You can connect, but can you keep them? How has that been for you too? I never want to go into your history. I want to know more about, how you got from where you were to where you're at now. What was the real journey? But what do you feel has been that connection that you've been able to maintain and grow your connection? What do you think that common denominator is?
Well, a big part of what I believe in today, and I can't say I was like this all along, but again, I feel like it's all about being authentic and being a giver. I was in a dark place, right? I was when you were really wounded, and I had a lot of okay, you guys can relate to this. I'm guessing from a little bit of the gray in the beard that we're similar in age, but I had more hangups than the phone company. Okay. If you can understand that, right?
Oh, yeah.
The younger generation won't understand that phrase, but we understand that phrase.
Right.
But yeah, I had a lot of hangups. And so I was I had such a self-esteem issue that I was so self-focused. And when I finally got okay with who I am and started to be able to feel like, I could be a giver. And I wanted reading the book, The Go-Giver, and actually Bob Berg, who's one of the co-authors of the book, was on our show. And I started to say, I'm going to be somebody who's going to who's going to serve, who's going to look to add value for people first, not look to get, but to give. People saw that, and they saw when eventually I think they were like, what's the agenda here? Right. And I still occasionally get that. But for the most part, people, when you're consistent in that messaging and you're living it, you're not just talking it, you're living it, people get it. And they're like, wow. So I believe, listen, I'm putting out content every single day, and people know that there's no agenda there. It's work. It takes work to do that. And so I believe the reason that people stick, and some people unconnect with me, they do. And you know what? They probably don't fit in the culture of what I'm about anyway. So that's okay. Good riddance,
Perfect. Great filter.
But I'm growing more than I'm losing. Right. So in fact, I think, I just hit the 20,000 mark, and I think only a few months ago I was at 18,000. So it's just growing exponentially. And that's because of the heart is right. Right. We talked about networking before, and there's this feeling of, I was on with a conversation with a guy earlier today, and he said he was at a networking event, and he asked people to raise their hand. How many people here are here to sell something? And everyone raised their hand. And then he said, how many people here are here to buy something? And nobody raised their hand. And he said, you guys, there's something wrong here, right? We're not here to sell. We're here to connect. We're here to, see how we can add value for each other. So I believe that's the biggest missing piece in general, is when you're giving, then eventually you'll get, right? It's the law of reciprocity, the law of sowing and reaping. It's all there.
That's it. That's so it. I think what is super valuable for our listeners and anyone who's watching is, so networking, yes, dirty word, but good networking, fantastic, right? That's what connecting is all about. But it's hard for people to do this. But if you are in business, you need to be connecting with others.
Sure.
Right. If you are in business, you or somebody within your organization needs to be doing this. And so what would you give a tip for someone, like a tip for someone in regards to, how they would get started? Because a lot of companies don't even think about this. It's not even on their radar, right? It's not important. What would you say to an organization head, leader, company director, to help level up the understanding of the importance of this connecting?
Well, there's so many pieces to that puzzle. I've done a talk in the past many times called it the three-legged stool of networking. So it's really, but do you guys remember the movie Glenn Rossi?
Oh yeah.
What his name was. The couple of famous actors was in that movie. But anyway, he draws up on the board, A, B, C, always be closing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I say ABC also, but A, B, C, always be connecting, right? And back in the day, always be networking, ABN, but ABC, always be connecting. And to me, it's a mindset, right? It's connecting all the time. So, but the three-legged stool of connecting is, number one, on social media, right? And make sure you have a personal brand, be authentic who you are, what that should represent, who you are everywhere on every platform, how you live life. Second, going to networking meetings and connecting that way. And there's we could have a whole conversation on that and what to do, not to do. And then third is the other leg of the stool. I call it unconventional networking, which is the world is my networking event. And I'll meet people everywhere. I just talk to people and start conversations on purpose, live my life on purpose, and inevitably exchange cards or information. My wife and I were at dinner, and the guy came in. He was getting takeout. He looked familiar to me. Pretty much everybody looks familiar to me. I started a conversation, and we had a great. He did 98% of the talking. Sounds like he was looking. And there's a tip there, by the way.
That's a big tip.
That's a big tip.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, it's a tip. And I said, hey, listen, maybe I could help. I'm well connected. I know a lot of people involved in multiple businesses. Let's exchange contact. Maybe I can help somehow. And that's it. Not, I didn't pitch him on anything. I was just finding out what his needs were, because he said he was a recruiter. And then he said he's looking for a new job. I'm thinking, well, I know a good recruiter, you. Yeah, but anyway, I was being funny. But anyway, so he's we exchange cards. And I don't know what's going to happen with it, but to me, it's just it's living your life on being a servant and connecting to be able to add value. And if you do that, whether on social media, at networking events, or living your life, it's easy. If you're out there trying to get something, it's hard. It is really hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Servant leadership. That's it.
During Glenn Ross, I know it was Al Pacino in there.
Yes, that's true.
And I can't. The old man that was in the
yes.
He was the odd, the odd couple, or whatever was odd couple. It was him,
right?
Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon, that's it.
Yeah, there's some more big actors. I can't remember the rest. I know there's some big names in there, but those two I remember. So anyway.
Coffees are for closers. Put the coffee down.
Right.
That was real good. I like that one. That's great. Question, obviously, we know our age. Obviously, we're up there. So we've been through, we've seen the transition to technology. I mean, obviously, being in the industry you were before, martial arts, how was that transition to what you do now as far as technology with, a lot of businesses now that are looking to go into technology, even that are in fitness are adapting into the new automation technology world. How have you been able to do that, and how have you been able to help others do that?
So martial arts for me was always kind of a side thing. I wouldn't call it a career. I've always done that in addition to businesses or, jobs, full-time stuff. So my career went from, the advertising industry, right after 9/11, economy gets shut down. I get laid off of a very, very big, executive position, doing well, whatever. And then I had to kind of figure out, okay, what am I doing? I didn't mention this to you guys, but I am 3 credits shy of my college degree. I'm not proud of it, but at the same time, I am proud of it. Right.
Nice. Man.
So I had to, there was limits to what I could do. So I said, all right. And, I had a mentor in my life and he said, well, maybe you could look to get a job in sales. And I'm like, I was not a sales guy, right? Again, think about it. Shy, introverted kid, right? This is not my DNA, but, it was a way to get a base salary plus upside commission. And I wound up getting into the copier world. And the copier world was transitioning into document management and some workflow automation. So that was kind of the start of kind of that journey. But I always came to the table with that sort of strategic mindset. I always thought, okay, if I was a former business owner, right? So I kind of thought, okay, if I was a business owner, how would I think? What would I be looking for? Right. And so that it had different iterations of that kind of journey. Eventually, that's when 5.5 years, 6 years ago is when I was brought on in the role I am today. So it kind of made sense a little bit, although going from advertising as a creative director, that was my role, to a sales guy, slinging copiers, that was a bit of a jump. But once I got into that path, it sort of started to make a little more sense again.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm glad you brought that up. People always tell me, "Hey, you're a sales guy," and to me, I've never been. I don't like going out there and trying to sell stuff.
Right.
It's like you said earlier. You listen 90% of the time, right? Yep. If you listen 90% of the time, you'll find out what you can help them with.
Yep.
And when you find out what you can help them with, you don't sell. You're serving.
Correct.
Right.
Right. And
so I found myself, I'm not in the sales industry. I'm in the service industry. I serve people. Right. Because you listen and you find out what you're doing. And so I thought, you say, you haven't been in sales before. Same thing, be that same guy that, is at home, doesn't like to go out too much and be around big crowds, but we can sit down and talk conversation, because I don't mind having conversations like this, but I'm not going to sell you, right? But within that conversation, I can see how I can help you from what I do.
Yeah.
So
that's why I like the word consultant, right? I think similar, right? Sales, you called it service, right? Consulting, right? Because to me, consulting is more like, hey, let's understand your needs. Let's understand your challenges. Let's understand your biggest pain points. And then once I hear all those things, now I'm like, okay, maybe I can help you. And sometimes those ways I can help might be through people that I know in my network, nothing to do with what I'm selling or marketing, right? But regardless, once you understand their needs, now you can help them get what they need because they're looking for it, right? Versus trying to push something on somebody, right? That's the ugly sales. That's what sales has the bad reputation from.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's big. That's big. And that's actually our business model, how we interact with all of our clients. Like before we even think about selling anything, there's no selling. It's first through the questionnaire, getting a complete understanding, like what exactly are you talking about? Like what exactly are you going through? Share it, dump it all out. Let us hear it. Oh, so you're doing this, and oh. And then by listening, now you start talking and solving problems during the dialogue.
That's right.
Now they're open even more and they're sharing even more. And here we go. Now we have, some momentum. And that's the same thing as networking.
Yeah.
That works across the board. I think that works in marriage as well. It's been working out for me. It's a great concept. Steve, what is your greatest piece of business advice you can give someone?
I mean, I think we started to touch on it already, right? Which is really to be a listener, right? To really listen before you talk. Be curious, be hungry to learn. And I believe that is, because I've learned it. It's funny when I have my advertising company, my partner say, "Hey, Steve, we got some good news." I'm like, "What is it?" He's like, "Well, the company," right? It was just him and I. The company is going to send you for a course on the company. It's good. It's called Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? And so in that course, eventually, and I've read the book. My mentor has recommended I read the book multiple times. Every now and then he'd be like, "Hey, Steve, you ever read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People?" I'm like, "Yeah, I read it, last year." He's like, yeah, you may want to read it again. I'm like, and that was his way of saying, you need to work on your people skills, right? but one of the things I've learned over time is people's most favorite topic in the whole wide world is themselves.
Yeah.
People's most favorite word in the whole wide world is their name, right? So be interested in them, get them talking, get them, be interested, curious. And that, to me, that's the biggest part that will help you in life, business, in everything you do.
Absolutely. And you'll never sell again. When you do that, you won't sell, but you also build that, like you said, those connections, that relationship, that trust. You have 35,000 plus people that trust you. However you want to see it, they trust you. So that's big. That's big. So, I think that for people to take that advice to listen, that's the most important thing to do, period.
God gave us 2 ears and one mouth.
For a reason, yeah.
Well, listen twice as much as you speak.
That's right. That's right.
My kids will tell you that they have heard that for the last time. I have worn them out with that one. I said, well, if I'm still saying it, that means someone's not got it yet.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Steve, that's great, man. Any final words, Wilton?
I think that, for our listeners that are listening right now, what is the most important thing that you think that you can leave them with? I know you touched on a couple of important things as far as the business and stuff, but what is something that you think you can leave them with that will remind them of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is what we started talking about, which is my mission on this planet, which is to be the light. And I did a post this morning, and I said, hey, reach out to somebody and just connect with them, just uplift them, just let them know that they're special, that they got the seed of greatness within them. And there's always something good you can find in somebody. There's always something good, right? And so for you that are listening, I want you to know, I don't know you, but you are amazing. And I want you to know that you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. And if you're, dealing with some stuff, I know there's a big, surge in depression and suicide and listen, it's going to be okay. I'm telling you that I've had stuff happen in my life, and there was some hard times in my life where there was dark, but there's light, and you just gotta just get through the stuff, the crap, right? Mm-hmm. The first three letters of the word success is suck. S-U-C. You got to get through the suck to get through success. You're going to be okay.
Love it.
Just get there. Just grind through it, and you're going to be okay.
I love
stuff,
it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This
is what it is. I mean, the reality says what it is. The first three letters tells you. But if you stay the course of those letters, you can spell it out.
That's right.
Steve,
well said.
Thank you, man.
Well, before we go,
Honor.
I know people that are on here may not know you. Said earlier, you may not know me. How can they know you? Where can they find you? And, what are the things that they can connect with you?
I appreciate that. So easiest way to get me is stevespiro.com, STEVESPIRO.com. It's a digital business card. My friend Sean Lashley helped me put together. So you go there. There's a lot of links on there. LinkedIn is a great way to find me. I'm very heavy on LinkedIn. I'm not on the other platforms, although you might see me there. But like if you go to Instagram, it'll say, I'm not on here a lot. Just go to LinkedIn, basically. But I do use it as a repository to put some of my content, but it's really LinkedIn. If you can, check out our Master Connector show Wednesdays at 1 p.m. If you want to get more information, go to masterconnector.show, SHOW. But Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's a great show. We love serving our community. My co-host, Cameron Toth, who's another great guy to connect with. He and I, have a great synergy, and we've had amazing guests on our show. We've had Dr. Dre on our show. We've had some crazy cool guests. So definitely come check it out. It's going to be great. And I definitely would love to connect with you and see how it could be of value to you.
Absolutely. We're going to put all those in the body of our audio and our YouTube account. So wherever you're listening to this or wherever you're seeing this, just scroll down to the body and you'll find all that information that Steve is going to share with us.
That's great. That is great. And a person I'm super excited about what you do and why you do what you do. You know, it's super important for the species called humanity for us to behave this way, for us to think about each other, have that go-giving personality spirit, aura, and to pay it forward. So connect with Steve. And thank you again, my brother, for being on the RPA show. And I think you might have learned something you didn't know.
Appreciate you guys.